You're listening to The Future of Food Is You, a production of the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Abena Anim-Somuah, and each week I talk to emerging talents in the food world, and they share what they're up to, as well as their dreams and predictions for what's ahead. I love this new generation of chefs, bakers, and creatives making their way in the world of food, drink, media, and tech. My guest today is Adrianne Paerels, the artist known as Hello Adrianne. Her work sits at the intersection of food, fashion, and joy. Her drawings of tomatoes, pasta, and even tinned fish have struck a chord with foodies and fashionistas. She's partnered with brands like San Pellegrino and Free People. You've probably seen her work on Instagram, like her custom pans covered in drawings of chip bags, canned tomatoes, and sandwiches. Or maybe you've checked out the products on her website. I chatted with Adrianne about her art practice, how she taps into her creative energy, and how she honors her Italian heritage by depicting culinary staples in playful ways. Now, let's check in with today's guest. Adrianne, thank you so much for joining us on the Future of Food Is You podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Can you tell us where you grew up and how did food show up in your life?
Yeah. I'm originally from Jersey City, New Jersey, and I lived right next door to Hoboken. I spent all my time there at school and with my friends, and it's home of Frank Sinatra. During that time, my parents were divorced. And so I would spend weekends with my dad. And that's kind of where food showed up a lot for me. You know, my dad is my Italian side. And my grandparents, they were classic Queens, New York Italians.
Yes.
And so, you know, my grandma would make me raviolis and fried cauliflower and things that now I kick myself for being too, full to eat as a kid.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't want it. Now I'm like, what I would give to eat that again. So that was kind of my early years. And then in middle school through the beginning of high school, my mom and I moved out to California. And we lived in a small town called Ojai.
Yeah,
kind
very
of
popular.
Yeah, it wasn't then. It's so funny now. And I always tell people, like, oh, it's this little town. And they're like, I know.
Yeah, it's like a destination now.
Yes, yeah.
So, like the Ojai Valley Inn is on like my bucket list of places to go. Definitely.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And there I went to a vegetarian school.
Wow.
Really small school, 50 kids in the high school. It was a private school, so there was like a built-in hot lunch program. It was all vegetarian. It was a mother-daughter duo who made all the food, and they used vegetables from the garden that was grown by students on campus.
Wow.
So it was a very cool experience, but very different, from eating like a salami Kaiser roll in Hoboken and then going and trying quinoa for the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely an eclectic early few years of food.
Amazing. So you ended up coming back to the East Coast for college.
Yes.
Where did you go and how did it develop your skills as an artist?
So I went to a really small college. It was an all-women's art school. Very cool place, and I didn't intend to stay there. I sort of went thinking I'll focus and I could transfer out somewhere else, but I just thought it'd kind of be a fun place to start out. I just fell in love with it. I wouldn't so much say I learned creatively there, but I think that the biggest takeaway I have is the all-women's experience. Because going into it, in my mind, I was like, that's not realistic. It's not setting me up for the real world. I'm going to get out in the world and work with everybody. Funny enough, when I left school, my first probably 10 years of my career, I was working with all women and all women companies. So I was like, oh, this is actually beautiful. And then once I got a job where I had to work with men, I was like, oh no. I was like, I don't want to do this. I like being with the women.
That's so funny.
I got so used to it. But it was a really, really cool and unique experience.
It sounds like you've grown up with such enriching food experiences. When did you start to express your love of food through art?
Originally, all of my artwork since I was a kid up through a few years ago, I was doing a lot of figurative work.
Like figure drawings.
And really kind of simple stuff. When I was in college, I was kind of like a metalhead. And so I always describe my work as like Black Sabbath's Daughters in Space. Like it was just weird, half-naked chicks on the moon with little very weird stuff. So during the pandemic, obviously we were all in isolation and that inspiration of people was gone. So I just turned to my pantry, and I'd always been drawn to packaging, and my career as my day job is graphic design. But I never really kind of thought to merge the two. And so I was looking at all this great packaging in my cupboard of like pastas and sauces, and I was like, let me just draw these just for fun and, see if I feel anything from it. I was working for a fashion company. With these drawings of all the food, I thought, why don't I just try putting them on some clothes? One pair of pants. I had an old pair of pants, and instead of getting rid of them, I thought I'll upcycle them.
Yes.
And so if I draw on them, I'm not going to be as likely to get rid of them. Yeah. It's something, even if I don't want to wear them, I'll keep them for a very long time. I just made one pair of pasta pants, and I thought it was kind of a one-off thing, and it would be a lot of fun. And then my friend wanted to buy them off of me, and I was like, okay, sure. And I didn't think anything of it. But she posted a photo, and then people sort of started asking, and then I started doing suddenly food was all I focused on. And I haven't really drawn figures since then.
Yeah.
Which is pretty weird to think.
How would you describe your current style with food as it relates to art and fashion?
At first, you might think it sort of fits into like the classic pop art style, and it was never my intention or inspiration of like Andy Warhol or anything like that. But obviously, it does call to that a little bit. In some ways, I think my work is, I wouldn't say whimsical, but has like a quirk to it. That's a hard one to define.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're in it
Definitely.
to really understand how to express it.
Yeah. I would say your work is sort of, there's a certain elevated nostalgia to it where it kind of reminds you of like just staring at your pantry and drawing something, but you can tell there's a rigor and there's a sort of attention to detail that a trained artist would have. You know, like for instance, you're painting popcorn and pastas and shapes. There's a certain like element of, understanding shadows and light and contrast. So I think that's sort of, not to answer the question.
Thank you. No, that helps. I need
that's where I see your art and your perspective. And as someone who's gone to see your work and appreciate it, it's really awesome.
Thank you. And even you said nostalgia, and that is something that's so big for me, just in my personal life and with the work that I do. And I always say when people are like, I don't know what I want on pants, but I want them.
Yeah.
I say, like, what's something that someone in your family made for you once that you can't get out of your head? Like, what's that old recipe? Let's put those ingredients on a pair of pants. Just like, I love anything nostalgic.
That's
really it means
cool.
so much to me.
As someone who loves art, I'm always fascinated to hear where artists draw inspiration from. Because I think so much of an artist's philosophy is rooted in what they're seeing and how they're expressing it. Can you give us a walkthrough of, your mood board or the things that spark a willingness for you to create right now?
Totally. It probably sounds very cheesy, but I always think of that line from Empire Records where she says, like, I go to the record store and visit my friends, and that's how I feel when I go to the grocery store.
I love that.
Every time I'm there, I'm like, I'm with my friends. And it's almost manifested in a sense because as I do these projects, I work with more and more brands, and so they literally have become my friends, and I'll walk in and I'll see Grillos, and I'm like, those are my guys, and it's very cool. And so a lot of my inspiration just comes from going to different grocery stores, or like little markets, like places that I haven't been and have different types of food and, eating. I love to eat. And so it's great to just try different restaurants and just really trying to step away from the screen, I think is a big part that I have to remind myself constantly because then we're all looking at the same inspiration. And so it's nice to just get outside, get some fresh air, see new things, and that really all comes together.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Kerry Diamond, founder of Cherry Bombe and host of Radio Cherry Bombe. You know about our podcast, but do you know we host lots of fun events across the country? We do, and we just might be coming to a city near you. We're headed to Portland, Oregon, and Maine, Santa Barbara County, and Greenport on the North Fork of Long Island. We'll be celebrating some of your favorite women in the industry, like Elizabeth Poet of Magnolia Network's Ranch to Table, and Chef Camille Becerra, and we'll be enjoying great food and drink. We're hosting dinners, networking events, even Women Who Grill get-togethers. We also just announced our next Jubilee, Jubilee Wine Country, taking place this October in Calistoga, California. Tickets are on sale for all of these events, so head to cherrybomb.com to learn more and check out our events calendar. The team and I would love to see you.
Are you inspired by vintage packaging? Do you have a collage of different, reference photos from different decades and centuries and eras?
All of that. So I've started collecting vintage cookbooks.
Very cool.
I have been just browsing through eBay for people just have like lots of them, like old Betty Crocker, just the coolest stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah. I even found some they're almost like zines of recipes, and they're just so unique. Yeah. And so I collected those. I recently went to the library. Usually I just go to pick up a book to read, but something caught my eye, and I walked over, and there was this old Campbell's Soup advertising book, and it had all of their old ads and like just the coolest. They used to have this, I want to say it's almost like a cherub, like a tomato cherub that they used on so many things, and I'm trying just to figure out how. Yes, it was so cute. Adorable. And so with each client who orders a pair of pants, I'm learning new foods along the way.
Yeah.
People order stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I have to look it up, and then I get in a rabbit hole, and I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I want to talk about your work. So your creations are these, again, beautiful expressions of food as it intersects with art, fashion, and design. Can you tell us about the various objects that you currently have?
As I said, it started with pants. And
the painter pants.
Yes. as someone who had a graphic design background who, would have stuff mass produced, it was such a weird feeling to create it once and ship it out and never see it again.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing that a few times, I thought, how can I continue to have these drawings live on after I put so much love into them? I'm also a bit of a hoarder, and I am a Gemini, so I like to try different things all the time, and I'm collecting different materials. And so one day, I think I was cleaning my studio, and I found some clay. I was like, how can I transfer these images that I've done? I have photos of all these drawings, so I found a way to transfer them onto the clay and create small dishes. And then I found another way to make earrings out of all of the drawings that I've done on pants and like create different recipes from each one. And so it just constantly kept evolving. Every new medium I found a way to bring the pants into it.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite mediums for art? Which are ones that just, you see them as blank canvases to draw and create things out of?
I love drawing on anything. But I will say in terms of how to create, drawing is my number one. And it's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, what type of paint do you use? And I'm like, I know it to someone else, it might not make a difference, but I do not paint. Once a year, I have like a week where I'm like, let me try that again. And then I'm like, never mind.
Just
like,
painting on like a canvas.
Yeah, just anything. But I prefer to draw. It's so weird to me that like painting just doesn't click the same way. But yeah, just anything I can draw on.
To each their own medium.
Yes.
Well, speaking of mediums, all this time spent cultivating your style and craft has culminated in what I think is your signature item, which are the painter pants. And that's how I first discovered you. I think you had made a tomato summer one, and I was like, I need to figure out these pants. And I found out they were customized, and we started talking in the DMs. Since each pair is custom, and I know you mentioned the story about the first pair, how do you work with clients in building the perfect pair of pants?
Yeah, so I've been really, really lucky that everyone just tells me what they want and then lets me run with it. Sometimes I think, do I want them to give me details? And I've had one or two people who say, can you put this on this pocket, this here? But usually people just tell me what they want and they let me do whatever.
Yeah.
Which is a little intimidating because then I'm like, I just send it off and I have no idea if they like it or not.
Yeah.
But it's really, really nice because also as people see more of what I've done, they know what they're getting. And so I think that they're just excited to get it. There have been a few times, though, where I'll have people that want something to really commemorate a certain time. So I'll work with them a little more closely. I had one client who last summer was studying abroad in France, and she wanted to commemorate that. And so she had all these different things she had learned to make in France. I think she was studying to be a baker. And so she sent me actual photos from her own trip.
Yeah.
And that was just so special.
Yeah.
So that is something that like means so much to me, to be able to really bring someone's memory to life.
Yeah.
And like have them be able to wear it around town.
How many pairs of pants have you made so far?
I'll be honest, I used to number them and I stopped. I was like, I can't remember what the last. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably around 200. That includes collaborations. I've done a few collaborations with Grillo. With all the collaborations and everything combined, I think about 200.
Wow. And has there been a favorite pair of pants that you've enjoyed making?
Each most recent pair is my favorite.
Yeah.
I love every time I make a pair of pants, I'm like, this is the best. It's just so much fun.
That's really cool. Obviously, your pants have been worn by some famous people, just really cool people in the industry.
Yeah.
Being huge manifestors here on the podcast, is there a dream person you would love to make painter pants for?
Oh my gosh. I know later I'm going to be like, I should have said this person. I'm going to go with my gut. First two people, Missy Elliott. I just love her.
Yes.
And Maddie Matheson.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like he would be so cool. And his new packaging for the new boxed macaroni.
Matheson Food Company.
Yes. Yeah. It's the best packaging I've ever seen. And I cannot wait to draw that, even if just my own pants.
Yes. Well, if anyone has connections to Missy Elliott or Maddie Matheson,
let's do it.
We have some pants available for you soon. So Hello Adrianne, your studio, is your side hustle. But you do have a full-time job alongside being an artist. What do you do?
First, I just want to say, I actually consider my day job my side hustle.
Respect. I appreciate
That's my manifesting. For a while, I actually was trying to hide that I had a day job because I was like, I'm just going to manifest that this is my full-time thing and just say that that's what it is. But then as projects piled up and deadlines got closer, I was like, well, I need people to understand why I can't answer every call. My day job is I'm a graphic designer for a pretty large financial news show. It's definitely interesting. I used to work in fashion, doing graphics as well. And so I will say oddly enough, it's a breath of fresh air to work for the news. There's just a big difference in the work-life balance, I find. There's a lot more respect for it. I clock in, I clock out, which is great. And it's not as creatively draining in the same way as fashion was that took away from my own art. So it really has afforded me the creative drive to work on my dream of creating the pants and all the art that I do.
Yeah. And there also seems to be a contrast of like creative expression, but then also using creativity to share facts and information. So you work on Mad Money, CNBC.
Yeah.
So, my dad always has it on in the background when I'm home. So I think it's cool seeing now. I feel like I'm paying attention to the graphics more.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to see that sort of contrast. How does that help you then balance this combination between your side hustle at CNBC and your main job being an artist?
I'm the type of person who, if I have too much time, I won't get anything done. It's just like, I'll get it done later. But because I have this time restriction, it really helps me kind of crank on my time and get done when I need to. And I also think another thing it's helped me with is the fact that I have my standard paycheck coming in. As an artist, it's so hard to know what to charge. And we're all learning, finding out on our own. People are becoming more comfortable in the industry, I think, talking about it with each other, which is so important and helpful.
Yes, totally.
But it's given me enough confidence or just ability to be able to ask for numbers I wouldn't have before.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if they don't accept it, I have my normal paycheck. I don't need to worry, which is really, really nice. And I think I'm very lucky and grateful to be able to do that. Because otherwise I would just take anything.
Of course, yeah.
I want to get my stuff in the world, but because I have the day job, I don't have the time to take everything.
In addition to creating your own work, you often collaborate with brands in the food, fashion, and design space. You've worked with Becca Milstein, who's an alum of the podcast, on stickers for her company, Fishwife. And you even partnered with us at the Jubilee Conference, working on a manifestation board with San Pellegrino. And I feel like in these collaborations, you depict people's favorite foods in an exciting, whimsical, and tangible way. How do you think about collaborations as a way to express your creativity and also just connect with the food world at large?
I love collaborating. And it's funny, when I was younger in school and you would have to like team up on a project, I'd be like, I just want to work on my own thing. It's so weird to work with other people. Now it's how I thrive because everyone I collaborate with brings something new to the table. And I'm constantly learning something. For example, I last year worked with Giada out in LA, the deli, and they're from Jersey. Shout out Jersey.
We love Jersey on this podcast.
And they wanted to do something together. They didn't know what yet at first, but they're like, let's do something. I was like, perfect, I'm down. Then they had this wild idea. And they were like, why don't we make sort of like a giant life-size version of one of your earrings, but have it be like hanging meats? So illustrated hanging meats. And they wanted to use it in the store. And then also when they did pop-ups, have it hanging outside.
Like a little sign.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
It was so cool and so fun because I had never done something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created these giant wood cutouts and drew directly on them. And I had to find a way to like fasten each one together, but so that they kind of hung
and
like
still
hanging
maintain
meats.
that jewelry
Exactly.
aesthetic, but also being functional.
It was so cool. But after my first attempt, I had to call my dad, my stepdad, he's my dad. And I was like, I need your help. And so he ended up basically physically making it for me. He was sanding it and everything. And that was also fun because then I got to, bring the family into it. I always tell people that I work with, no idea is too far out. Bring me your weirdest idea and we'll make it happen. I want to constantly try to do something new. And so I love just finding a different way to bring food into a different physical form.
I do want to talk about one of your most recent collaborations. So you recently made a custom pair of pants, painter pants, stickers, and a birthday card for Emma Chamberlain, who is a very popular YouTuber and founder of, popular brand Chamberlain Coffee. How did a partnership like that come about?
Well, I want to say I did manifest it back in 2020.
Manifestation works, y'all.
When I first found out about Emma Chamberlain, I remember I made some sort of shirt and posted on TikTok and was like, tag Emma Chamberlain. And a bunch of people did. Nothing happened. But 4 years later, here we are.
It takes time.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm friends with Katie Kimmel. She's an artist who makes really cool stuff out in LA. And she just opened up a pop-up shop for a few months. She invited me out to do an event with her. And we're still currently working on the event, but she had someone else she wanted to bring in as well that does sort of some Italian-themed work. And then her name is Madeline Summers. She also has her side hustle as the art director for Chamberlain Coffee.
Very cool.
Yes. And so one day after we connected, she just reached out and was like, hey, Emma's birthday's coming up. Would you want to make her a pair of pants? And I was like, I think I was driving and I pulled over and I was like, yes, let's do it. So that was super fun. And the first time I ever received like a full mood board because she's an art director. So she laid it all out beautifully. And I was like, this is a dream project.
So I'm just looking at the pants here on Instagram, and you've got the Golden Gate Bridge, because I think Emma has a connection to the Bay Area, Beyond Corn, a bag of Chamberlain coffee, you've got a pigeon. And so you worked with Madeline to sort of put this all together. That's really exciting.
It was super fun. It was so much fun.
And what did Emma think of them?
Apparently she loved them.
Nice.
I cannot wait. Hopefully I'll see a picture of her in them, but I heard that she screamed, so.
Yeah, well, that's really awesome. And again, continuing on the manifesting track, and maybe it will take 4 years, are there any other future dream collaborators that you would love to work on a project with right now?
Okay, not to sound so corny, but honestly, if I could just keep working with everyone I work with, I would be happy. To just like do another project with everyone a few times a year. I've been so grateful for everyone I've worked with. I would love to just continue working with everyone. I went to Taco Bell recently, and I was thinking this would be a fun one. And, you know,
Amazing.
I'm into like the prebiotic sodas these days. Olipop, that would be fun.
You know, it seems like you've really been able to build community and fellowship, not just working with people on projects, but just having other artists inspire you or work with or support. How do you think about community being an important role in your work and how you sort of stay creative?
It is so important to my work, and it's something I wouldn't have thought when I first started, you know, just working in my own little dungeon, I like to call it. With everything, it starts with the internet. You know, I remember the first time my pants were shared to Pasta Girlfriend, that amazing account run by Ali LaBelle. The first time she shared the pants, I had such an influx of this community just welcoming me in, of people in all different realms that I've never met before. And it was the first time that door sort of opened. And I was like, wow, I have these new friends. And that was so beautiful. And from there, I started to work with more artists, connect with people in real life. And it was a slow rollout for me because I am a homebody and I have a lot of social anxiety. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I was asked to do an event, I just said yes right away because it's my dream to be the person who would do an event, but I was afraid to do it.
Yeah.
And I did it, and it was amazing. And then I kept trying to do more because once I do these drawing events, you meet so many people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, especially in New York, it's people who are just going out on their own, trying to have a nice time.
Of course.
And so it's really such a nice feeling to be around people who just want to have some pasta and draw a little picture.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
It's really cool. It did really help me with my social anxiety. Last year, there was an event I had that I had a panic attack beforehand, and I didn't want to go. I was going to have my fiance just drive with me and sit in the car while I did the event. I was absolutely terrified. And it also was the week that it started getting darker out early, so I think everything just culminated.
Yeah, the looming of winter
yes, I was like,
descended upon the land. Yeah.
I got there, I was kind of shaking, and a girl from college that I haven't spoken to since, she was there. And she brought her sister, and she didn't tell me she was coming. She just showed up, and instantly I just felt this wave of relief. And I was like, I know someone here. She felt it in her heart to just come, and that is the kindest thing that I could ever, like, it just put so much warmth in my body. And then I was just buzzing around the room. You know, I just felt so good. It's so important to just get out of your comfort zone. You know, you can run away and cry later, but just try.
Yeah. Social media is a really big part of your work.
Yes.
That's how people find out about you. I know you've since transitioned from no DMs to actually having a storefront where people can purchase and see your work. How do you think about social media in relation to your work and how you get to communicate with people?
I will say most of my business has come from Instagram. It's really good as an output, but creatively, I try to limit my use. I don't want to be too involved in it in terms of gathering inspiration. And so I like to just, you know, I use it as a form of communication and trying to just go back to community and like meet new people. And I think it's really cool to talk to people in different worlds that I wouldn't typically meet because I am a creative and in the art world. And so I really try to connect with people who are, you know, I've connected with so many chefs and cooks and things like that. And it's hard for me to know where to meet those people in real life. So I think it's really beautiful to be able to connect with people online for that.
What do you think the future holds for small creators and artists like yourself?
I think there's so much opportunity out there that didn't exist in even recent years. Luckily, I think for artists who want to collaborate and work with brands or companies, like whether they're big or small, I think that that is a great place where social media has come in and put their work out there for these brands to find. And so I think that it's very important for companies, as they are doing now, to reach out to artists instead of creating a mood board with that artist and just having someone who's on salary to copy it. Yeah. I think that a lot of people are finding the importance of working with these artists who have developed these styles over years, because I think also people are starting to pick up on when something is genuine. We've seen so much stuff get churned out over the past few years of the big brands copying things. And I think that it's really important to work with who created a style and, keep working with more artists.
Yeah.
One tip I want to say to artists who maybe think that my career is aspirational or just how did you start working with brands? Just put yourself out there. The first 2 collaborations I did were with Seymour's Sausage and Grillo's Pickles. Both of those I got by just commenting on their Instagram, we should make a pair of pants. I just left a comment, and then with Grillo's, I remember 2 minutes later, they were in my DMs, let's do it.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my goodness. All I had to do was get cocky enough for 1 second to just leave a comment and be like, hey, we should make this.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Just throw it out there. Because if not, it's just in the void, the abyss of the internet.
But at least you tried. And I think that's the biggest thing, I think.
You have to try because you don't know what's going to come of it. And it's usually something beautiful.
People often forget how powerful the incremental changes or those sort of quick, bold decisions end up making.
It's really amazing.
Making you build this really great repertoire and inventory of things.
And it builds your confidence. Suddenly I was like, I'm good enough for Grillo's Pickles. Then I felt confident enough to ask the next person and the next person. And, then also the no's don't hurt as much.
Exactly.
You're like, well, someone else said yes. And that's all that matters.
Do you have any exciting collaborations or things that are coming up that our listeners can pay attention to?
Yeah. So in August, I am creating a special edition can for Talea Brewery.
Very cool.
Yes.
Congratulations.
That is we're starting to work on it now. So I'm very excited to see where that goes.
Nice.
I think we'll do some events around that. I'm trying to do a lot more events. I'm going to do an event in July with Recreate Collective in Brooklyn. That'll be just like a fun, really chill drawing club event. I really like doing those now that I've kind of broken out of my shell. It's just, it's a lot of fun. And so hopefully more of that, more collaborations. I have something else coming out with Fishwife, which you'll see, I think, around the holiday time. So Project Polly, based out of Boston. They are super cool. I'm obsessed. Nikki Bandera, who runs Project Polly, is just one of the coolest people I've worked with. And so we created a very cool line, spaghetti western clothes, some cool pieces. So that's coming out soon.
Okay, fun. And how do you hope that your art inspires people when it comes to thinking about their relationship to food?
Bringing it back to nostalgia, I hope that it can tap into something, like maybe an unlocked memory. Pick at your grandma's recipe, also just a gas station snack that, you've never tried, but you wanted to. Like anything that inspires you, I just want to be able to make people laugh with my work maybe, or just give some sort of smile to people.
Well, Adrienne, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I've learned so much, and I can't wait to have one of your pieces
I can't wait.
In my closet soon. If we want to continue to support you, where are the best places to find you?
Instagram, of course, at Hello Adrianne, Adrianne. My website, helloadrianne.com. Also, I have a website for just my portfolio work if you're interested in collaborating on something that's not pants. That's adriannepaerels.com. And I dabble in TikTok, but you can find me.
Just search pants. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we go, our guest is going to leave a voicemail just talking to themselves 10 years from now. You have reached the Future of Food Is You mailbox. Please leave your message after the beep.
Hey, Adrienne, it's me. I hope that you first are happy and living a blissful life, and that you have fired your job long ago and are still making pants as fun as you want them to be and have all the amazing clients that you continue to have throughout the years. I hope that you got better at cooking and that your kids like your cooking, or maybe they have the same garbage mouth that you have. And I hope that you've touched people with the work that you've created or inspired anybody at all. And that we can come back here and catch up with Abena and see how things have been in the past 10 years.
That's it for today's show. I would love for you to leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to our show. The Future of Food Is You is a production of the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network. Thanks to the team at CityVox Studios, executive producers Kerry Diamond and Catherine Baker, associate producers Jenna, Sadhu, and Elizabeth Vogt, and content operations manager Londyn Crenshaw. Catch you on the Future Flip.